What would you do if your wife of 31 years cheated with 4 men, leading to murder? I'm Paul, 55, from Ohio, and in December 2020, a detective's visit shattered my world. My wife, Rachel, a flight attendant, hid a dark secret that ended in tragedy. From trust to betrayal, watch this true infidelity story unfold with shocking twists.
It was a crisp December evening in 2020, the kind where Ohio's winter bite hung in the air outside my modest home. I'm Paul, 55, and this 3-bedroom house, built by my grandparents with creaky floors and a fireplace that crackled on cold nights, was my sanctuary. No grand estate, just a place filled with memories. Life with Rachel, my wife of 31 years, had always felt steady. We met back in college at Ohio State, me buried in engineering textbooks, her already training to be a flight attendant. She was a vision, dark hair pulled into a neat bun, eyes bright with ambition. I'd watch her practice safety demos in the dorm lounge, her voice clear and confident. We bonded over late-night study sessions, her sketching flight routes while I crunched numbers. 5 years into our marriage, we'd carved out a routine. Rachel's job took her across the U.S. and abroad, but we made it work. She'd call when she landed, her voice warm through the static of time zones. We'd set times to chat, me at the kitchen table with a beer, her from some hotel room halfway across the world. It was our lifeline.
Those calls were my anchor. She'd tell me about turbulent flights, the quirky passengers, the cities she'd seen, New York's skyline, Paris's cafes. I'd update her on the house, the garden I tended, the neighbor's dog that kept digging under the fence. We'd laugh about her forgetting to pack socks again, and I'd promise to mail a pair. It felt unbreakable. Our home was a haven of small joys. Weekends meant pancakes on Sundays, her flipping them while I brewed coffee, the kitchen filled with the scent of batter and love. We'd sit by the fireplace in winter, her feet in my lap, planning vacations we'd never take. No kids, just us, and that was enough. But that December, something shifted. Rachel was gone for a week, a longer stint than usual. I called at our set time, the phone ringing into voicemail. My stomach tightened, but I brushed it off. Delays happen. 3 days later, still no answer after she landed.
The silence gnawed at me. Our routine had been ironclad for decades, and now it was crumbling. I paced the living room, the fire casting shadows on the walls, my mind racing. Was she okay? Stuck in a storm somewhere? Or was there something more? I tried again that night, the clock ticking past 10 p.m. Voicemail again. I left a message, my voice shaky. "Rachel, it's me. Call when you can. I'm worried." The house felt emptier than ever, the creaks louder, the silence heavier. The next day, she finally called, her voice rushed. "I'm sorry for not calling back. We all got off the plane, went for drinks, grabbed food, crashed for days after that." She laughed it off, but it sounded forced. I forced a smile, though she couldn't see it.
"Taking in the sights before the next leg," she added. "Have fun. Call me next stop," I said, hanging up. But doubt lingered. Her excuse felt thin, her tone off. I sat on the couch, the fireplace unlit, staring at her empty chair. Was it jet lag, or was she hiding something? I'd noticed her calls growing sporadic lately, missed check-ins, vague replies. The man I'd been, so sure of our bond, felt like a stranger. My hands trembled as I dialed her again, hoping for reassurance. No answer. The routine we'd perfected over 31 years was unraveling, thread by thread. I walked to the window, the Ohio snow starting to fall, and wondered if the woman I loved was still the same. The knock I'd feared might come someday echoed in my mind. And it did, sooner than I'd ever imagined.
Back in the fall of 1989, Life at Ohio State was a whirlwind of possibility. I'm Paul, 55, and that's where I met Rachel. I was hunched over engineering blueprints in the library, slide rule in hand, when she breezed in. Dark hair and a tight bun, uniform crisp from flight attendant training. She was a year ahead, already prepping for takeoffs and landings, her voice cutting through the quiet with safety drills. We clicked over late-night study sessions, her sketching flight routes on napkins while I calculated bridge stresses. Our first date was a campus picnic under a sprawling oak. She brought homemade sandwiches, I brought a thermos of coffee, and we talked until the stars came out. She dreamed of seeing the world, Paris, Tokyo, New York, and I promised to build us a life to match. A year later, we married in a small chapel. Just family and a few friends. Her in a simple white dress that glowed in the candlelight. Those early years were a dance of love and logistics. Rachel's job took off, her flights stretching from coast to coast. I supported her every step, taking night shifts at a drafting firm to keep us afloat. We'd set up a routine, her calls when she landed, my updates from home. It was our tether across the miles.
She'd describe hotel views, Chicago's skyline at dusk, Miami's ocean breeze, while I told her about fixing the leaky faucet or planting tulips in the yard. We'd laugh about her forgetting chargers and I'd mail them overnight. Weekends were ours. Sunday brunches with bacon she'd burn, her apologizing with a kiss, the kitchen a mess of love. It felt like a fortress against the world. 5 years in, the routine was rock solid. She'd call from LA after a red-eye, her voice tired but warm. I'd be at the kitchen table, sketching house plans, waiting to hear her laugh. We talked about upgrading the house, maybe a trip to Europe someday. No kids, just us, and that choice felt right. But by the late 1990s, subtle shifts crept in. Her calls started slipping. Missed check-ins, vague excuses. Layovers ran long, she'd say, her tone clipped. I'd pace the living room, the fireplace cold, wondering if it was jet lag or something else.
One night in '98, she was gone for a week. I called at our usual time, the phone ringing into silence. No voicemail, no text. I tried again the next day, my voice tight. "Rachel, where are you? Call me." The house felt hollow, her absence a weight. She finally called 3 days later, her voice rushed. "Sorry, the crew went out for drinks after landing. Crashed hard after." I forced a laugh, but it stuck in my throat. "Enjoy the next stop," I said, hanging up. But doubt lingered like a shadow. The pattern grew. She delayed calls, blaming tourist detours or crew bonding. I'd sit by the phone, the tulips wilting outside, my mind spinning. Was she dodging me? Hiding something?
Our conversation shortened. She'd mentioned pilots and attendants, their names blurring together. I'd ask about her day, get a curt, "Fine," then silence. Mia, our tabby cat, would rub against my leg, sensing my unease. I'd pet her, her purring a small comfort. By 2005, the cracks deepened. Her trips lengthened, her excuses thinner. "Lost my charger," she'd claim, or "signal's bad." I'd check flight trackers. Her plane landed hours ago. The kitchen, once alive with her chatter, felt like a tomb. I started noticing patterns, calls from the same cities, same times. Chicago, Miami, Seattle. My engineering mind mapped it, a puzzle with missing pieces. Was it stress? Or was someone else filling her nights?
One evening in late 2020, she was gone again. No call for days. I sat with Mia on the couch, the TV droning, my thoughts a storm. The routine we'd built for 31 years was fraying. and I couldn't shake the fear that our love was a lie. The knock I dreaded was close. I just didn't know it yet.
It was a frigid December night in 2020, the kind where Ohio's wind howled through the cracks of my home. I'm Paul, 55, and the silence after Rachel's last call had left me on edge for days. I was sprawled on the couch, Mia the tabby purring beside me, when a sharp knock jolted me upright. "Who is it?" I called, my voice unsteady. A gruff reply came back. "Detective Hayes." I opened the door, the cold air rushing in, and faced a man in a worn coat, badge gleaming under the porch light. He held out a business card and asked to come in. "Sure," I said, my stomach twisting as I led him to the living room. He sat, his presence filling the space, and dropped the bomb. "I'm investigating a homicide." "What? Why are you here?" I stammered, my mind racing. He leaned forward, his eyes steady. "The victim knew your wife. We found her contact through phone records." I felt the air leave my lungs. Rachel. A homicide? I gripped the armrest, my knuckles white.
He didn't ask where she was. I told him she was a flight attendant, due back next week. "Did you know the victim?" he asked. I shook my head. "Never heard of him. Tell me more." He described a brutal murder, stabbed in an alley, blood pooling under a street lamp. My wife never mentioned this. I sat there, stunned, as he detailed the investigation. "We're checking alibis," he said, standing. "I'll contact her when she's back. Sorry for the late visit." He left, the door clicking shut, leaving me in a daze. I didn't call Rachel. I needed to see her face, hear her explanation in person. The days dragged, Mia weaving between my legs as I paced, my mind a tangle of fear and doubt. When she finally landed, she called, her voice bright. "I'm back. Pick me up." I drove to the airport, my hands tight on the wheel. She emerged from security, smiling, and hugged me like nothing was wrong. I grabbed her bags, the weight of them matching the burden in my chest. In the car, I asked, "Have fun with the crew?" She said, "Yeah, wonderful time," oblivious.
We got home, and I carried her bags inside. In the living room, I turned to her, holding out Detective Hayes' card. Why was he here asking about a man you knew who was killed? Her smile faded. She stared at the card, then at me, her face paling. "I have no idea what you're talking about," she said, turning away. I followed her to the stairs. "He found your number in phone records. Friends on Facebook?" "No," she snapped, climbing up. I retreated to my office, my head spinning, trying to piece together who this man was. Hours later, I couldn't let it go. I stormed into our bedroom where she was unpacking. "Who was he?" I demanded. She avoided my eyes. "I don't know him. Check your Facebook messages," I yelled. "You do know."
I threatened to call Detective Hayes for more details. As I turned to leave, she grabbed my arm. A knock sounded. Detective Hayes again. I opened the door, his expression grim. He greeted Rachel, asking to talk. "Yes, of course," she said, her voice shaky. We sat and he cut to the chase. "The victim's wife claims you two had an affair. She shot him when she found out." Rachel's face drained. "I didn't have an affair," she protested. He pulled out a file. "We have proof. Phone records, a video from a private investigator hired by the wife. Your number's all over it." I felt sick, the room tilting as he explained the investigation. The wife had tracked her husband, uncovering Rachel's involvement.
Rachel dropped her head, tears spilling. The detective added, "We cleared her alibi but needed to confirm. I'll be in touch." He left, the door closing on her sobs. I stood, my voice low. "How long have you been cheating?" She whispered, "Since year 6. My world crashed,
4 men, pilots, a hotel manager, a businessman she met in transit. I choked out, "Oh my God, how many?" She shook her head, refusing a number. I pressed, but she stayed silent. Weeks later, Detective Hayes called back. They'd found a recording from one man, proof of their encounter. That sealed it. My marriage was over, a 31-year lie exposed by a murder.
The air in our Ohio bedroom hung heavy that December night in 2020, thick with the scent of Rachel's tears. I'm Paul, 55, and the detective's words still echoed as I stood there, her sobs filling the silence he'd left behind. Mia, our tabby, paced nervously at my feet, her purrs gone. I turned to Rachel, her face buried in her hands, and asked the question that burned in my chest. "How long have you been cheating?" Her voice was a whisper, barely audible. "Since year 6. The words hit like a sledgehammer, shattering 31 years into dust. I staggered back, gripping the bedpost. 6 years? After all we built? She nodded, tears streaming, her confession spilling out. 4 men, she said, her voice breaking. A pilot from Chicago, a hotel manager in Miami, a businessman in Seattle, and a co-pilot from her last route. Each name was a knife, twisting deeper. I saw her face from those calls, smiling, lying, while she slipped away with them.
I demanded details, my voice raw. How did it start? She hesitated, then spoke. The pilot, after a layover in '95. Long flights, loneliness. It just happened. The others followed, she admitted. Each city, a new chapter of betrayal. My mind reeled. 31 years, and she'd hidden this for over 2 decades. I thought of our Sundays, pancakes, her laugh, now tainted. Why? I choked out. She looked away. I don't know. The thrill, maybe. I didn't mean to hurt you. That excuse fueled my rage. Didn't mean to? You threw our life away. Mia hissed, undarting under the bed as my voice rose. I paced, the floorboards creaking, my hands shaking. The woman I'd loved was a stranger. She reached for me, her hand trembling. Please, Paul, I'm sorry. It's over now. I jerked away, the touch like fire. Over? You've been with 4 men while I waited at home. The room spun, her tears meaningless. I stormed to the closet, yanking a duffel bag from the shelf. I'm done, I said, stuffing clothes inside. She followed, pleading, Don't leave me, we can fix this. Her voice cracked, but it fell on deaf ears. I zipped the bag, my decision ironclad. This isn't fixable. You lied every time you boarded that plane. She sank to the floor, sobbing. I love you, Paul. I'll stop. Too late, I muttered, heading for the door. I drove to a motel that night, the snow blanketing Ohio in silence. The room was stark, faded wallpaper, a sagging bed, but it was mine alone. I sat, the bag at my feet, replaying her confession. 4 men, 31 years of trust, gone. The next day, I called a lawyer, my voice steady despite the ache. We need to talk divorce, I said. He asked about assets, 3 homes, a 401k, a stock portfolio. I listed them, my mind numb. Rachel called, begging again. I've started counseling. Let's save us. I cut her off. Counseling won't erase 25 years of lies. I'm getting checked for diseases you brought home. Her silence was answer enough. I hung up, the motel phone cold in my hand. The thought of her with those men, pilots, managers, sickened me. I'd supported her career, her dreams, and she'd repaid me with infidelity. My marriage was a mirage, and I was done chasing it.
Back home a few days later, she greeted me with red eyes. "I confessed everything," she said. "All four. One got me pregnant, but I had an abortion." I stared, speechless. The depth of her deceit floored me. "What did you hope to gain?" I asked, my voice hollow. She sobbed. "I don't want you to leave. I love you. I can't stay with you. Your actions were monstrous. We'll split the assets and end this."
The motel room in Ohio felt like a prison that December night in 2020, but it was mine to escape the wreckage. I'm Paul, 55, and Rachel's confession had left me hollow, her pleas ringing in my ears. I needed out. And the next morning, I called a lawyer, my voice steady despite the ache. "We need to talk divorce," I said, the word tasting bitter. He asked about our finances, and I laid it out. 3 homes, a 401k, a stock portfolio built over decades. Fortunately, I have a separate account she doesn't know about, I admitted. But the main house is in both our names. He nodded, scribbling notes. "Any equity?" "Yes, plenty," I said, my mind numb. "Selling might be an option, but you'll likely split the proceeds. No kids?" "No, not with her. I have one from before," I explained. He smiled faintly. "This should be straightforward then. No kids, just assets."
I told him I needed time to process, the weight of 31 years crashing down. He agreed, giving me space. That night, Rachel called, her voice thick with tears. "I've started counseling. Let's save our marriage." I cut her off cold. "Counseling won't fix 25 years of lies," I said. "I'm getting checked for diseases you might have brought home." Her silence was deafening. I hung up, the motel phone clammy in my hand. The thought of her with those 4 men, pilots, managers, turned my stomach. A few days later, I returned home, her red eyes greeting me. "She confessed everything," she said, her voice shaking. "All 4. One got me pregnant, but I had an abortion." I stared, the room tilting. The depth of her deceit hit like a tidal wave. "What did you hope to gain?" I asked, my voice hollow. She sobbed, "I don't want you to leave. I love you." "I can't stay," I said, my resolve firm. "Your actions were monstrous. We'll split the assets and end this." I backed more things, storing them at my parents' place. They welcomed me, shocked but supportive. "Why didn't you tell us?" my mom asked, her eyes wet. "I was ashamed," I admitted. They hugged me, offering their home until I found my footing. The divorce process began on a Friday, papers filed with a lawyer's precision. Rachel was served at home that Saturday night, her silence on the phone chilling. "I'll see you in court," she said. No fight left. I got a copy of the papers, the finality sinking in.
Court day came, but Rachel never showed. The judge ruled by default, the divorce final without opposition. I stood in my parents' living room afterward, the weight lifting slightly. The $240,000 from the house sale was split, $120,000 each. Weeks later, she called, her voice desperate. "I was served. Can we talk?" I met her at a diner, her eyes hollow. She gave a rehearsed speech, but I cut her off. "Never mind, it's over." She asked for furniture, and my parents and I retrieved it from the sold house. I never saw her again. Mutual friends were stunned, whispering about her bankruptcy. $120,000 lost to a bad venture with one of her lovers. She lost her flight attending job too, fired after a pilot's wife exposed their affair to the airline CEO. The feds indicted that man for a Ponzi scheme, questioning Rachel about the money. She's in a bad place now, but I feel no glee. 31 years, and she fell hard. I don't hold grudges, but her choices cost her everything. I hope she finds help, for her sake. Living with my parents, I'm rebuilding. Slowly, surely.
The motel room in Ohio felt like a prison that December night in 2020, but it was mine to escape the wreckage. I'm Paul, 55, and Rachel's confession had left me hollow, her pleas ringing in my ears. I needed out, and the next morning I called a lawyer, my voice steady despite the ache. "We need to talk divorce," I said, the word tasting bitter. He asked about our finances, and I laid it out. 3 homes, a 401k, a stock portfolio built over decades. Fortunately, I have a separate account she doesn't know about, I admitted, but the main house is in both our names. He nodded, scribbling notes. "Any equity?" "Yes, plenty," I said, my mind numb. "Selling might be an option, but you'll likely split the proceeds," he replied. "No kids?" "No, not with her. I have one from before," I explained. He smiled faintly. "This should be straightforward then. No kids, just assets." I told him I needed time to process the weight of 31 years crashing down. He agreed, giving me space. That night, Rachel called, her voice thick with tears. "I've started counseling. Let's save our marriage." I cut her off cold. "Counseling won't fix 25 years of lies," I said. "I'm getting checked for diseases you might have brought home." Her silence was deafening. I hung up, the motel phone clammy in my hand. The thought of her with those 4 men, pilots, managers, turned my stomach. A few days later, I returned home, her red eyes greeting me. "I confessed everything," she said, her voice shaking. "All 4. One got me pregnant, but I had an abortion." I stared, the room tilting. The depth of her deceit hit like a tidal wave. "What did you hope to gain?" I asked, my voice hollow. She sobbed. "I don't want you to leave. I love you." "I can't stay," I said, my resolve firm. "Your actions were monstrous. We'll split the assets and end this."
I packed more things, storing them at my parents' place. They welcomed me, shocked but supportive. "Why didn't you tell us?" my mom asked, her eyes wet. "I was ashamed," I admitted. They hugged me, offering their home until I found my footing. The divorce process began on a Friday, papers filed with a lawyer's precision. Rachel was served at home that Saturday night, her silence on the phone chilling. "I'll see you in court," she said. No fight left. I got a copy of the papers, the finality sinking in. Court day came, but Rachel never showed. The judge ruled by default, the divorce final without opposition. I stood in my parents' living room afterward, the weight lifting slightly. The $240,000 from the house sale was split, $120,000 each. Weeks later, she called, her voice desperate. "I was served? Can we talk?" I met her at a diner, her eyes hollow. She gave a rehearsed speech, but I cut her off. "Never mind. It's over."
She asked for furniture, and my parents and I retrieved it from this old house. I never saw her again. Mutual friends were stunned, whispering about her bankruptcy, $120,000 lost to a bad venture with one of her lovers. She lost her flight attendant job too, fired after a pilot's wife exposed their affair to the airline CEO. The feds indicted that man for a Ponzi scheme, questioning Rachel about the money. She's in a bad place now, but I feel no glee. 31 years and she fell hard. I don't hold grudges, but her choices cost her everything. I hope she finds help for her sake. Living with my parents, I'm rebuilding. Slowly, surely.
The morning sun filtered through the curtains at my parents' Ohio home on June 8, 2025, 8:27 a.m. I'm Paul, 55, and the ache of Rachel's betrayal has dulled to a faint scar. The house is quiet, save for the clink of dishes as Mom makes breakfast. I sit on the porch, a mug of coffee warming my hands, watching the neighborhood wake up. The divorce is final. The $240,000 from the house sale split evenly. My share sits in a new account, a fresh start. I've moved my things here: clothes, books, the cedar box my grandfather carved. The spare room is mine now, a sanctuary of order amid the chaos she left. Rachel's fall haunts the grapevine. Mutual friends whisper about her bankruptcy, the $120,000 gone to a lover's failed venture. She lost her job too, fired after a pilot's wife exposed their affair to the airline CEO. The feds indicted that man for a Ponzi scheme, questioning her about the money. I feel no joy in her ruin. 31 years tied us, and that bond lingers. One evening, she knocked on my parents' door, her eyes hollow. "What's there to talk about?" I asked, cutting off her rehearsed plea. She left, defeated. I've started rebuilding. Work's slowed, freelance engineering projects I choose, not grind through. Last week, I met Tom, a neighbor who restores vintage cars. We've been swapping stories over beers, his garage a new haven.
Tom's a solid guy, mid-40s, with a dry wit that eases the tension. He helped me fix the porch swing, its creak now a comforting rhythm. Mia, my tabby, loves him, curling up by his toolbox. It's not romance, just a friendship that feels real. I've taken up woodworking again, crafting a bookshelf from oak scraps. The grain under my hands is therapy, a focus Rachel never understood. Yesterday, I placed it in the living room, a symbol of my new life. The house feels like mine again. The past still stings, her lies, the 4 men, the murder tie-in. But I've let go of the grudge. Her choices led her here, and I wish her help, not harm. A friend texted, "Heard she's struggling. You okay?"
"I'm better," I replied, meaning it. This morning, I watched Mia chase a leaf across the yard, her purrs a soft echo. Betrayal and shatter you, but you can rise, redefine yourself. If this resonates, subscribe for more stories of pain and redemption. Drop a comment. Your story matters. Hit that bell for more.